This is a Paladin. This is called Hammer Throw with Smite chance, called Hammerdin. Now this is called that next level stuff. Let's get into it. What's going on? Jaxe-en here, and in Last Epoch's 0.8.3 Sands of Majasa update, the Sentinel was given a plethora of new skills to work up, and among them all, one of them was called Javelin. Now, the way that I use Javelin, I'm incorporating it into the classic Hammerdin style, so this is what I'm going to call the Hammerdin Side B remix. Also, the linchpin piece that makes Hammerdin work are Keen Adorn Idols. That gives you your Smite proc chance. What we're going to do with this kind of setup is take it further and have your character literally be filled with the blood of Zeus. I'll show you how. Now, let's talk about skills, starting with Hammer Throw. You're going to get two versions of this setup because one setup is going to have the blessing that we need for the build and one doesn't. That one's going to be first. What we're going to do is that we're going to go into Winged Hammers, Steadfast Path, Iron Spiral, and Hammer Vertex. All 1 point each. This way we can quickly get into having our hammers orbit around us. Then we go into Catapult, 2 for 2, to get 2 more hammers, and then Ballista. This is going to help us with mana control because then combining that roll with Ballista Affix Rings, we can then control the amount of mana that we're using. Afterwards, we're going to go 2 points into Force of Impact, and then 5 points into Battle Rouse. This is going to help us with our HP sustained. And then for our last point, we can put it into Guardian Zeal. Now once you get the Throwing Leech blessing from Black Sun Raye's Monolith, then we can take the Force of Impact and Battle Rouse nodes out and go 4 for 5 in Rapid Throw, 1 for 5 in Zealot's Conviction, and 3 for 3 in Guardian Zeal. The reason why these changes have been made is because with the Throwing Leech blessing, we don't have to worry about HP sustained through our hammers solely. We also have Javelin available too. So in return, we're going to give the hammers a little bit more DPS and also strengthening up its blessing that we get from it, and at a faster rate, to support our build. Next skill is Lunge. This skill is basically our mapping mobilities and gap closure skill, and we're going to focus on 5 points, putting points straight into them. We're going to raise towards Double Strike to give ourselves an additional charge of Lunge. We're going to race towards Pylum Assault to get Javelin casted after using Lunge. We're going to have Call the Weak, which is essentially like saying in Path of Exile terms, calling Strike. But in this game it's called Kill Threshold, meaning if we hit the enemy with Lunge when they're under a certain threshold, in this case 15% remaining HP, they are going to be instantly killed. Then we put 4 points into Holy Incursion to have a 100% chance to proc Smite on at least one enemy to a maximum of 3 smites to a group of enemies. And then we put the last 4 points into Dawn Charge to allow us to heal when we use Lunge. Next skill is the star of the show, and that is Javelin. What you essentially will do is just hurl a javelin in a straight line at an enemy. But with this build, we're going to throw javelins up in the air to land down from above into an area. Another thing to take of note, if you are wielding a pole arm, that pole arm stats, the melee physical damage, is going to be added into the pole arm's damage by about 20% of its normal value, which is great. Other sources of melee physical damage, though, will not have any effect. So we're looking at the rings and the pole arm to give some amount of base damage to this weapon. The rest will be gained through 5 out of 5 points in the Holy Spears, and then we gain the ability to turn Javelin and all physical damages that is gained, and increases too, into lightning damage with Divine Throws. This node is very, very important because in our Paladin tree, we have a node called Holy Precision, and that's what's going to give the Javelin a lot of crit and a lot of crit multi. So from that point, off from Holy Spears, we're going to go down 2 points into Monster Piercer, then go 1 point into Horde Spiker, and put in 2 points into Beast Ender. Now initially, while you're leveling up the build to have more crit at an earlier time, you can put in 4 out of 4 points into Beast Ender. But as you gather more sources of critical strike chance, the throwing critical strike chance, especially for your helmet and your chest piece, you can take points out of Beast Ender to put into nodes like Siege Barrage and Spike Bombardment. Speaking of points, we're going to go off from Monster Piercer into Serrated Javelin to put in just 2 points. Just 2 points because there's going to be plenty of armor shred elsewhere. The duration is a cute bonus, but the main focus is to get to excellent balance. Main reason is when we get to the points that we want to go through from Mighty Delivery, 1 point, Burning Strength, 1 point, into Siege Barrage, 1 point, and Spike Bombardment up to 2 points, it's going to cost you a lot of mana to use this skill. So using excellent balance is going to be a great way to counteract the increased amount of mana costs, because Siege Barrage has 12 mana costs, and after that it's 30 to 60 points more for more javelins to rain down. Also note to take in, this is a level 21 setup because there is a tier 1 to tier 4 item in the build and play to give myself an additional point necessary to grab the second Spike Bombardment node. If you were to have any other points in the build, I would probably put them into, depending on how much you want to go into getting critical strike chance anywhere or not, you can put them into Beast Ender, or you can put them into Mighty Delivery for more attack speed or damage. Or if you want to work up more armor shred, you can always put them in the Serrated Javelin, but I would probably say if you don't have enough crit chance in your base, then you would want to put it into Beast Ender, or if you already have 100% crit chance, you can put them into Mighty Delivery to increase your attack speed and damage. Next skill will be the exclusive skill that you gain from selecting Paladin as your mastery. It is called Holy Aura. What it means is, when you put this skill in your hotbar, you are passively giving yourself and allies around you 30% increased damage and 15% elemental resistances. Whenever you activate the skill, for 4 seconds, that buff plus whatever benefits that you have in your skill will be doubled for the next 4 seconds. And what are those perks that are on this skill are Call to Arms, 2 out of 5, Fanaticism, 2 out of 4, Strength from Afar, 3 out of 4, Expedite, 4 out of 4, True Strike, 3 out of 4. Extreme Zeal, 3 out of 3. Vital Boon for 2 out of 4 points. And then Purification for the last point. You may notice concentration. Do not go towards that, because you want your aura to be up at all times, because those buffs and benefits that you gained in your tree are going to be with you passively throughout. Now, I went into Vital Boon and Purification for defensive reasons, because there are, in Chapter 9 of the campaign and throughout, a lot of enemies are going to be trying to hit you with ailments and debuffs. So having Purification as a defense against ailments is a really good boon to have for you and your allies, because it affects them as well. Next skill that's going to be mentioned is Smite. Smite with the Keen Idols is a very strong thing for us, because it's going to allow us to autocast it through a chain reaction with those idols in order to give us a lot of healing and also a little bit of debuffing and some damage. But the main focus with Smite for us is to heal. So we start off 4 points into Holy Wave, 1 point into Soothing Balm, and then a full 5 points into Grace to give ourselves some healing. Then we go 3 out of 5 in Panacea to grant ourselves a chance to be cleansed of ailments whenever the Smite's healing wave hits us. Then after that, we put 2 points into Blinding Flash to give enemies a chance to be blinded and to increase hit damage while they are blinded. Afterwards, we're going to put 2 points into Blinding Flash, 2 points into Sacrifice, and 3 points into Atonement. Now, with Blinding Flash, Smite has a chance to administer a blind ailment, and after that, if the enemy is blinded, Smite can deal even more damage. Sacrifice is going to allow us to give Smite essentially double damage because of the way it scales, but it comes at a cost of our health. Atonement will mitigate some of that, but another thing that's going to mitigate it will be, again, the Black Sun Rye Throwing Leech node. So if you don't have the node yet, I would just say put in 2 points from Sacrifice to Panacea and 3 points into Blinding Flash, and you'll be fine. The last skill that you have at your arsenal is not even going to be specialized. It's just there for the every 18 seconds that you feel like you may have used too much mana in one go. This skill is called Volatile Reversal, and what it's going to do is it's going to send you back 2 seconds in time to a position where you were physically, affecting both your mana and your health. So say if you were to use Lunge too many times and used Holy Aura within a span of 2 seconds, you can use Volatile Reversal to take yourself back in time to still have those skills be used, but your health and mana basically have been unaffected by you using those skills. So it's kind of like having an eventual here and there of free skills. Next, we can get into the in-game passives. To start off, you're going to put full points into Juggernaut, and then 2 points into Fearless, just for some life. After that, you can put 5 points into Relentless and Armorclad, and once you hit 20 points into your tree, hold off on any other points until you get your mastery trees unlocked. After your mastery trees are unlocked, we're going to go to Void Knight first, because there is the node that we want to get called Abyssal Endurance. Once you get at least 5 points in the Void Knight, you'll be able to unlock Volatile Reversal that we're going to use much later in the late game. But put 10 points into Abyssal Endurance to get the resistances in life. The Void Corruption node to give ourselves 11 crit multi. It's optional, but you can put it in there just for more damage once you get something like Holy Precision in the Paladin tree. Now we can get into the Paladin tree, where a lot of the points are going to be put into. Starting off with Conviction. Conviction is going to offer us a lot of good damage for all sources of our own skills, because Lunge and Hammer Throw are going to work off of physical damage, Smite's going to work off of fire damage, and Javelin is going to work off of our lightning damage. Then we're going to go into Valor to give ourselves some life, and then into Holy Symbols, because we want that healing effectiveness, health, and necrotic res. The next node is going to be Faith Armor. With this and other sources of critical strike avoidance, we can essentially become crit immune to prevent one-shots. Next node is going to be Holy Precision. Now pay attention to this node, because this node, in my opinion, is the strongest source of Javelin's DPS. And the numbers speak for themselves too. It's almost to the point to where I would almost recommend you racing to this node to reap benefits early as possible. After that, we're going to go into both Reverence of Duality and Light of Rye. Reverence of Duality is going to give us a nice balanced gain of benefits, while Light of Rye is going to give us a good amount of fire damage for our Smite and lightning damage for our Javelin. But it's also going to give us move speed, which is a great boon to have in Last Epoch. Now, by now, you're probably at level 85 and are wondering what points you want to put into here and there. What I did for this build was I went to Divine Essence to give myself a bit more defense in terms of survivability, because I'm not wearing a shield in this, I'm using a polearm. And because of that, a lot of my upfront defenses is going to be based on my armor. So having Divine Essences, because we heal, we can also give ourselves reduced stun duration and a good amount of armor from this node. And speaking of more armor and thinking about more damages and stuff, once you go 5 for 5 here, you're at level 90. So we can finally go to the Sentinel tree and put in the last 10 possible points into Weapon Master. Weapon Master is going to give us a good amount of throwing attack damage percentage, as well as strength. Strength is going to give us an increase in our armor rating as well, to allow for even more armor percentage to help us survive, basically. But after that, you should be at level 100. In the build, you're going to see me use the polearm Bronze Glaive. That's because of the effects that Javelin has on using a polearm, meaning that that melee physical damage is going to convert into 1/5 of its written power into throwing damage. But the reason why we work with a Bronze Glaive is because of the generic critical strike chance added to our base. Combining this, the base 5% that any skill gets that hits, not dots, with the points that we get from Beastender, we are able to achieve a maximum of 19% critical strike chance. When you craft on your Bronze Glaive, you are aiming for increased critical strike chance, critical strike multiplier, chance to shred armor on hit, and chance to shock on hit. Ignore this last roll. This is what I was using before I put in any effort towards the blessings and been leveling with this item since. Now, the accessories. I want to say, I might be wrong here, but you can get increased throwing damage instead of increased lightning damage on your amulet. But with the amulet, you're going to want either a jade or a silver amulet to get either increased attack or throwing attack speed or increased critical strike chance. It wouldn't matter because in the end you are going to have pretty nice DPS. But yeah, you're going to want throwing attack or lightning damage. You're going to want critical strike multiplier on your amulet. And for your rings, you're going to want the throwing attack / minus throwing mana cost on your rings, along with throwing attack speed. The suffixes are kind of there for any gaps in your defenses or resistances that you can quickly like fill up. And if you can find a throwing attack minus mana cost exalted ring, and if it's either coral or a silver ring, that is actually pretty good because one, you get a benefit of, if a coral, you get some life on that. But the more mana cost that you can strip off of your skills, the better. Now, the helmet and chest piece, I would say go for, while you're leveling, get the winged helmet and the Solarium plate for the critical strike avoidance until you can gain 100% critical strike avoidance through other means. After that, you can go for the Dawn helm and Dawn armor for defensive reasons. But what I did is that I went for the bronze items for offensive reasons. But you're still gonna want similar rolls on your gear because of the roll ranges are really good for these kind of items, especially the chest piece because that can roll pretty good health and vitality. As for the belt, having that +1 in the potion slot is really good to have personally. But yeah, other than that, it's just making sure you have, again, those little issues with your resistances being filled in. That way you have room for stuff like health, endurance, and other items. Speaking of which, since I don't use a shield, I'm going for engraved gauntlets because of the endurance factor. Getting the endurance to up to 60%, 60% max is about as good as like having a shield. The boots and relic are kind of a partner pair because of it being kind of like having a pseudo all Ellie res. Even the lowest rated fire res boots will still put you over on your resistance caps. So I would say focus on getting the movement speed out of your boots first. After that, you can, and you don't have any other resistances on that are in a need kind of position, just throw in some life and some vitality and you'll be fine. The relic, I've chosen the Argent Crest to pair with the boots for Ellie res reasons. But if you can get frailty on hit to a good tier, the one I have is I think tier 1, then more power to you because that is going to be a good defensive effect. Because frailty stacks on an opponent per stack is -6% damage that we take from them. So that's a maximum of 18% damage that we're not going to see on us. As for the idols, we're still going to follow the Hammerdin style method and using at least 3 Keen Adorn idols to get ourselves up to 27% chance to cast Smite whenever we hit with throwing attacks, which on the screen is about 21%. That's fine with me. But if you want 21% and then that extra 6 from the other 2 parts of the idols, that's fine with you as well. But you're also going to be wanting to look for the secondary rolls that are necessary for this build to shine. Preferably being the of Siege roll and of Melting roll. These 2 rolls, especially on the 3x1 talls, are going to give us a lot of extra DPS because Armor Shred with either throwing attacks or with fire skills will allow us to implement an ailment called Armor Shred on the enemy. And what Armor Shred is we're going to administer a minus 100 armor rating to their stats, allowing us to have stronger hit damage. And since we hit a lot of times with our hammers, smite procs, and literally 5 javelins per cast, we're going to administer a large amount of ailment stacks within a 4-second time frame, meaning that we're going to have a lot of damage being administered to them. After which, once you find these 5 idols, whatever is left is basically just 2 little 1x1 squares. So whatever is you're calling that one, that's up to you. For me, I went with mana and health, and I was fine with that. Now, I did hope I explained those idols well enough, and if not, I do apologize. But now it's time for the last part of this here build guide, and that is the blessings. In your first monolith, if you can get the experience blessing, that's pretty cool. But if not, just keep moving on. It's just going to take a little bit longer to level, that's all. The blessing that you are going to want, and may want to tempt for every so often, is the throwing damage leeches health Raye blessing from the second monolith. You're going to have to, on your first monolith, select to think about the future with the ghosts. That will unlock the right side path. That way we can get to Raye sooner. Now when you go to the Lagon monolith, if you can get your hands on Lightning Res Shred, that's the best option. The second best option is Shock on Hit. That way we don't have to play with the crafting that much, but you do eventually want to get Shock chance on hit on your weapon, because that's going to be better than having plus to all attributes in terms of damage. With the Lagon monolith, go for Lightning Res Shred. Oh, and to get to the next monolith, you're going to want to select to fight Liath, I think her name is. But yeah, that's going to be in the second quest line. Choose to fight her. That will unlock the right side even further. Otherwise, you'll be fighting Formosas on the left side. And on your next monolith, since if you selected the fight option, that means you have the chance to gain primarily the critical strike avoidance, the basic survival of might roll. If that one rolls for 40% or up, then that's pretty good. That one's a keeper. If it doesn't, then I would say go back to that when you have time for the empowered monoliths to get it there as well. The grand version is going to put you probably over your critical strike avoidance cap, but it's still something you're going to want to work for, at least 40%. Then we go to Heorot to get chance to chill on hit. This is for defensive reasons and why I have Fizz Res rolls in my gear. But I chose to keep the chill on hit because chill on hit combined with frailty on hit means that the enemies are going to be able to hit us less often because of chill, and also hit us less in terms of power thanks to frailty. So it's like a combo pair of defenses combined with our endurance, which we do get from the Spirits of Fire, the Eternal Flame triplets. That's going to help us out with our defense as well, because again, with endurance, since we don't have a shield, that's going to be a good defense layer to have to keep ourselves from dying. That about sums up the Hammerdin-B side guide. If you stuck around this long, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you like to, please like, comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. And on that note, I'll see you all on the next one. Take care.